Let's talk about ancient Maya astronomy. The study of ancient astronomy, Maya or otherwise, is called archaeoastronomy, and I have been an archaeoastronomer for almost 30 years of my life now. I have studied temples all over the world, looking at their orientation, looking at the inscriptions, looking for the clues that ancient folks understood and were studying the stars. But in this video, we're going to talk specifically about the Maya and what they knew. The truth is, we know a lot about what they thought of the cycles of the sun and the moon, and we have some information about what they thought about the planets, but we have virtually no information, at least in terms of cycles, how they saw the stars. And that's because these folks, their methodology for understanding the sky was what we call horizon-based astronomy. They weren't looking at the entire globe of the sky. In some cases they were, especially the very center part. That was important, when things crossed through the center of the sky, which we call zenith. That was an important point as well, but mostly an ancient Maya astronomer would set up shop to look at the horizon at dawn and the horizon at dusk. So they would set up their equipment, which was very simple. A person could stand there with one stick, sitting straight up, connect that stick with a rope to a second guy, and he would be out at a distance of, let's say, 5 meters away. And as something rose on the horizon, our astronomer would look through his stick and tell the guy to line up his stick with the other one, and then they could mark a line on the surface of the floor they shared. That would be the angle of where something came up. That is simple. It didn't take major science or equipment. With 2 sticks and a rope, 2 guys can systematically map out where things are rising and setting along the horizon. And it's a simple task as well if you're only looking at the sun, the moon, and the planets, because they're going to be in a band all year long. They're going to rise and set in the Maya world within a 60-degree band off of east-west. So if I'm looking straight east right now, 30 degrees off one way, 30 degrees off another, that's the entire line of vision for the things that they were tracking and the cycles that they were recording. The stars, of course, are all over the sky. But if you're a horizon-based astronomer and you're watching night after night what rises and what sets and recording it, you quickly realize that the stars are this unified backdrop. They move through the sky like they're like a blanket being pulled slowly over it. But the moon, the sun, and the planets, they dance around in front of that theater stage. So as the stars slowly move, you quickly notice that, hey, those planets, they're doing something different. And the sun and the moon are also not in sync with the stars. Why are there millions of points of light that are moving all in unison, and then there's these weird things that move different? We understand those as our solar system today, but they saw them as interesting players dancing on a stage, and they recorded when they would come back in their cycles. So the moon and the sun, we understand those cycles very well. 365 days, the sun runs its whole play. The moon does a funny little dance for 29 or 30 days in a pattern within the sun, but it's always in that band. So they're watching when it rises and sets, and also its phases. The planets are interesting because we have 5 visible planets they can see. They can see Mercury and Venus, who are interior orbits to us. And then they can also see Mars, Saturn, and Jupiter. And those are outside of our orbit. And because of that, when they're looking at them on the horizon day after day, they do different dances. The ones on the interior do different dances than the ones on the exterior from the Earth. But they keep watching them. And so Mercury, they watch it, watch it, and it doesn't always hit the same day. It's a funny little wobble that it does, but they've averaged it at 117 days. And we see that in their texts. They're talking about increments of 117 days, and we peg that to an actual glyph that we think might mean Mercury. Venus we're much more sure about because Venus was connected to warfare. So they talked about it all the time and they ritually planned warfare at certain important stations of Venus. For the classic period, it was especially its first appearance as morning star. When the horizon-based astronomers are watching, the first day that just before the sun rises they can see Venus, that's its first appearance as morning star. And they timed a lot of their ritual warfare to that. And the hieroglyphs tell us that. But it's a cycle that they watched again and again and again, and they averaged it out as 584 days. And we see that number in the Dresden Codex, on Stela, all over the place. We know they're watching Venus. What's interesting about that is that they had to average that number. They had to watch it again and again and again, because some days it hits 287, sometimes it hits 283. So their number of 584 days is very close to our modern approximation of its actual average. Our best in modern times is 583.94. So the Maya estimation was only 0.06 off our modern best. They were really tracking this thing. And they did it with this simple equipment. There's a lot of talk on the internet about how, aliens must have told them, or the Atlanteans must have told them all these sorts of things. But really, when you go down there and you talk to people and you do experiments like I have at these aligned temples, you can use 2 sticks and a rope to replicate their study methodology. Of course, the Maya had this writing system. That was the essential piece for them to be able to build on the research of past scholars. So an astronomer would spend his whole life collecting data, write it in Maya hieroglyphs and pictures, and hand that basically ephemeris to the next astronomer. And over a few generations, they got darn good at it. But the point I want to get across at the end here is that this is not mysterious, otherworldly stuff. These are smart people using basic tools to come up with profound conclusions about how our universe works. Thanks for watching. If you liked that, here are 2 other videos that you might like as well. Please feel free to ask me questions down below in the comments, and I will answer all of those the best I can, and I'll pick a few for a monthly answer, a long form answer in a video. So, thanks.